What is good, everybody? Gamer Critic back with the first game impressions of 2026. This is a video where I talk about my thoughts on a game that I frankly just haven't finished yet, and I'm not sure if I will. That's why I'm making this impressions vid, to discuss what I think of the game as of what I've played. I usually try to put a decent amount of time into these games before I start talking about them, give it all the time that I'm capable of until I continue to keep playing or I move on to something else. And today we are talking about Code Vein 2, the sequel to the first Code Vein that came out back in 2019 and developed by Bandai Namco. So, take all this with a bit of a grain of salt because I didn't finish the game. I'm 22 hours in. I've defeated slash rescued 3 heroes, got myself to level 60 some as of now. So I think I'm at a good place to discuss how I feel of the game as of what I've played right now. And how do I feel about Code Vein 2 after 20 some hours? I really wanted to like this game more than I did, guys. And you know what? Let me be clear before we go any further. I don't think the game is bad. I actually think it's fine. I think it's a perfectly fine, acceptable RPG. But if you love the game, great. If you love the game, if you hate the game, that is perfectly fine. But when I made my why I'm buying, I wasn't just expecting fine. I was expecting something that was going to be just an overall better experience than what I got. I was expecting this to be like a real sequel, whereas I expect everything from the first game to see at least some type of improvement. And that's not to say there aren't some improvements made in Code Vein 2, but just not nearly as many as I would have liked or was kind of hoping for. But there are definitely improvements here. I'd even argue and say one of the biggest improvements here is on one of the biggest issues that I had with the first game, and that's combat. I think the combat is oodles better than it was in the first game. Now, it's not like the best, most standout combat I've seen in a Soulslike or anything, but it particularly stands out for 2 big reasons. One, again, massive improvement over the first. It's faster, less stiff, different weapons have different moves, it's flashier, it's just overall more fun to partake in. It still kind of has a little bit of the stiffness from the first game, but still, compared to the first game, it is much better, truly. But what really helps the combat here, even more than everything I just said, it is the level of customization that you have in this combat. In the first game, you had a pretty wide array of choices in what blood codes you can use, what weapons you can use, what companions you want to bring, etc., etc. The second game does that, but just does it more. It is crazy the amount of customization you have in your combat. The different swords or axes or short swords or rune blades or bayonets, which are these like little rifle gun things that you can use in combat, is great. The many different numbers of companions and their different moves that they can offer is also great. The many different blood codes at your disposal that can make your playstyle feel significantly different just by switching these out. To the different types of weapon forma that give you really cool looking and stylish moves to regain Ichor like Scorpion Tails, Scythes, etc., etc. With all the faults that I have with this game, and trust me, I'll be getting to those later, I have to give the credit where it's due. And if there is one thing that this game does extremely well, one part of the game that I would argue was one of the most important parts it should have gotten right, the combat and the level of customization that you have in said combat is great. Also, that customization point also goes to the character creator. I gotta shout it out. It's great. It is as good as the first game. I love a good character customizer, and I think Code Vein 1's was one of the best, and I think Code Vein 2's is just as amazing. Look at my boy with that hoodie and those red microphones. Gave my boy the drip. I'm proud of that one. I would also give Code Vein 2 credit that it is more colorful, which I think is very nice. Code Vein already had a really nice art style, and it's nice to see that art style come back, but just a little more colorful. At the very least, it's a little more pleasing on the eyes. One other significant positive that I would like to throw out to Code Vein 2, I don't love the story, but I enjoy some of the characters. I'm not really talking about the characters that you see at the very start of the game. I think Lou is fine, but everybody else regarding that, I'm not a big fan of. I'm talking about The heroes, their individual characters and their story, I think are very nice. I really like Jose and her backstory with her sister. I really like Holly and her backstory with her father. I really like Noah and his dedication to his cause. I mean, I'm not saying these are the most well-written characters of all time or anything, but it would be the lie to say I wasn't engaged and interested in their backstories. The combat is a big deal. The combat and customization is why I will still say I enjoy the game. I think it's fine. But then you got to get to everything else. And this is where I can't help but feel disappointed. I'm disappointed because you expect a little better from a game you were actually really excited for. You know, like, how is a $70 game running this poorly on PS5? Now, I'm just talking about myself. I'm sure there are people out there who's probably not having any issues at all, but the performance and optimization of Code Vein 2 is bad. There's no way to put it. It's just bad. And while it's not enough to get me to hate Code Vein 2, it is still noticeable. The frame rates during exploration and especially in combat is just rough, stuttering, popping, constant in this game. I mean constant. You can't move more than a few feet without some massive building or tree or monster just popping out of nowhere. And then I did say that it would take a lot of crashes to get me to hate a game. It wasn't a lot of crashes, but I did have two. And two of those crashes were during big boss fights. That right there is an easy way to get me angry. And I wouldn't be so upset if this wasn't a $70 game and this wasn't running on my PS5. That's my powerful console. Come on, I might expect something like this on my Xbox Series S maybe, since, you know, that thing is weaker by comparison, but my PlayStation 5, I'm even hearing that this stuff happens on PCs. Even the most advanced of PCs are experiencing some of these issues. How could you guys charge 70 bucks and then release a game at this state? I don't need a game to be flawlessly running at launch, but it at least needs to be at a better position than this. They released an update a couple of days ago. I'll probably hop back in to see how well it compares, but I can only talk about what I experience now. What I experience as far as performance goes, just very disappointing. But I may have been a little more able to forgive the performance just a little bit if the world was just a little more interesting. I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy exploring the world. We have this motorcycle that we can ride around that already doesn't feel particularly great, but you're exploring these decrepit cityscapes as you're jumping between these timelines. And I'll admit, it's interesting to see the post-apocalyptic world to the less post-apocalyptic world. It's nice to go back and forth and see some differences. But I don't know what it is in Code Vein 2, but I just felt really uninterested to explore this world. Between a lot of empty space in the open world where you're just walking, running, or riding around, and it takes what feels like forever to come across something meaningful or helpful. The world's kind of looking extremely similar to each other, with every area having this industrial ruined city environmental look. I mean, sometimes they'll switch it up a little bit by adding some rain, some snow, etc. But, you know, at the end of the day, they all look very similar, which is particularly disappointing because of my why I'm buying. I thought we were going to have a little more environmental variety, and to an extent we do, kind of, but it all is mostly just that industrial ruined city environments with overgrowing fauna. And I don't mean to sound ungrateful. It looks good. I do appreciate how colorful it is. It's easier on the eyes, but there were no points in Code Vein 2 where I was looking out in the distance and saying, wow, that looks particularly interesting. I wonder what's over there. Anytime I had to do that is because I was forcing myself to do it, and I was forcing myself to do it because I was hard locked on some of these bosses, which also, I need to say, difficulty balancing here is insane. Throughout the entire game, I was flying through these bosses, both the main story bosses and the mini dungeon bosses. But then you get to Jose. That boss humbled me so bad, I was stuck at her fight for what felt like 2 or 3 days. Now, mind you, this might just be a personal issue. If you had some type of issue with this as much as I did, please let me know, so I can know I'm not crazy. If I am crazy, fair enough. But it just felt like the balancing here could have been a lot better. I've got other issues I can talk about. I can talk about how the navigation and the map in this game is not that great. I can talk about the repeated enemies not being all that great. I can talk about how the story is not the best pace, despite actually liking some of the characters. And a lot of these issues that I said with Code Vein 2 are all issues that I had with the first game. And the fact that this game pretty much keeps all of my problems exactly the same is just really disappointing. The only thing in Code Vein 2, like I said, that is significantly improved over the first game was its combat, customization, and its builds. Those 3 aspects make this game. If I could recommend this game for one reason only, it would be because of that. But I do need to be very, very clear. I don't think this is a bad game. Truly, I would not have spent 22 hours with this game if I didn't enjoy some of my time with it. I enjoyed experimenting with different weapons, different blood codes, and I especially loved doing it on some of the game's really cool bosses. It's just really difficult to say that this game lived up to my expectations. That's the gist of it. Who knows, my opinion might change. I'll keep on playing and we'll see. But what I can definitely say with no uncertain terms is I don't hate it. I actually think it's fine. I enjoy the combat significantly, but I was just hoping for more. And that was my first impressions of Code Vein 2. Thank you guys for watching. If you love the game, if you hate the game, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It helps a ton. My next video will be my why I'm buying for Crimson Desert, and then I am releasing a review on Reanimal. That's about halfway done. I'll keep you guys posted on that. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram. That's @thegamercritic. Be good people, and I will talk to all of you very soon. All right, peace.